Hello. So in this video, we're going to be talking about how we structure search campaigns inside of Google. And this is going to be mainly for lead generation. Now, the same things still apply to e-commerce. However, e-commerce shopping tends to be a lot better for the most part. But yeah, this is going to be the general walkthrough on how we look at accounts that are new or in the middle or very seasoned. And all of the structure applies to that. Sweet. So let's jump right into it. So the first thing is, which stage are you in, right? So early on, which is, self-explanatory, your goal is to gather data and test your offer, right? So you don't really have that much spend. You don't really have that much data. Maybe you're brand new. Maybe you tried them previously and now you're optimizing towards a different goal. A lot of different things kind of come into that equation. Ad spend is still somewhat relevant. However, even if you have a ton of ad spend and you don't have the data, you might be on the early on stage, but you'll get past it a lot faster. As you can see, the next stage in here is if you have 25 plus conversions a month. Sometimes it can be down to 20. I like to say that 25 is pretty much the sweet spot when it comes to this, 20 to 25. I just have 25 as kind of the safety mark to then move into a seasoned account. So as you can see, when you have 25 plus conversions a month, your goal is to work towards better sales conversion rates plus higher quality leads, right? So you're not just getting lead forms, you're getting like lead forms that are qualified to turn into a sale, not just volume. Seasoned account, your goal is to obviously scale what's working and try to pretty much pass essentially what you were making previously to continue to grow more and more and more and more, to scale until you can't scale any longer. So anyways, let's jump into the general structure that we would use across all of these search campaigns. So one campaign, different ad groups. Now, these ad groups can be more than 3, can be under 3. It kind of depends on the account, but the ad group idea is still the same, which is it's all theme based. So if I have someone that is, looking for near me, that would be a certain ad group. Someone that's just looking for the general service, that would be an ad group. Someone that's looking for like a specific keyword, like a condition or a specific, more technical term, that would be another ad group. And so you can really get very specific on how you want to divide these out, but they should be geared towards themes. And earlier on, you should have a way less of these. We're talking like 1 to 2. And you'll see right here on the earlier structure, we only want like 1 to 2 ad sets max. So going into the bidding structure and where we want to start early on, right? So just as a reminder, this is if you have under 20 to 25 conversions a month, brand new account, don't really have data, any of that will apply to you. Our goal here is to see, for example, if your offer actually works in the first place. And so what we want to start with is a manual CPC campaign to test the market on quality placement and terms, not focused on profitability, just purely offer-based test. Or purely an offer-based test. And so what that means is that, I'll give you like a very blanket example. If person A or competitor A is selling something for $100 and you're selling something for $200 and it's the same thing in the buyer's eyes, the $100 offer will be the winner. It's pretty straightforward in that sense. And so no matter how good your ad structure is, if you're selling something for $200 and your competitor sells it for $100, your competitor is going to win. Now, obviously, marketing comes into play. We have buy one, get one free offers. We have branding. There's so many other things that come into the equation with that. Free estimates, have your sales teams get a lot more leverage on that side of the equation. So all of those things play a part in it when it comes to the offer. But the goal here is to really prove that the offer either works or doesn't work. As you can see, manual CPC, we're just going for placement. We're just sending good quality traffic to then see what comes out of that good quality traffic and take that feedback, because then we know, okay, ads are for sure serving to the keywords that we want to serve for. Is it our offer? Is our offer not working towards our competitors? Or are we in a scenario where maybe we're targeting the wrong keywords and we need to reassess our audience that are going to go after? Those are typically the 2 areas that most accounts start in, and it takes a lot of time to get to that point where you know that a keyword works or doesn't work. I would say ideally good placement keywords, you're looking at about 100 clicks for the specific keyword. We're going to have obviously low volume of search terms on exact match during that test time. So you have a manual CPC campaign, high bids, bidding for absolute top position. And we're looking at pretty much, just a very low volume of ad sets, like I already mentioned. In this stage, you want to ideally test under 10 keywords on exact match so you can get enough volume to know if the keywords are working or not with your offer. I would say even 5 or under is a better option, because we don't want to go too broad and have the budget split across multiple keywords that might overlap in similarity, and we're just diluting the data and not having as accurate of information. Now, Exact match is not always going to be exact match, so keep that in mind. However, this is as exact as we can possibly get inside of Google Ads. Like I said, again, the goal here is to not be optimized. The goal here is to test the market. And you'll see right here on optimization is we're focused on trimming keywords to hit conversion volume and track the rest of the funnel if possible for quality of leads if it's lead generation, which obviously you're probably doing lead generation if you're doing search. So what does this mean? Well, this means that we are trying to get that 100 click threshold. So it says right here, trim off keywords once they reach around 100 clicks, add a good placement, and you're verified you have the same or better offer than competitors. So we say, okay, we have the same or better offer as a competitor. This keyword got 100 clicks at the absolute top positioning. We are not getting any sales from that. What is going on? It's either something on the site, verify that, or the keyword's just not going to work with your current targeting and offer, or people just aren't searching for that keyword. And so then you have to transition that, pause that, move to another keyword. Pretty straightforward in that sense. Our goal here is to prioritize offer testing and figuring out what the conversion rates are for separate keywords to then better assess what your actual ICP or your avatar, your client, is actually searching for in the first place. Super, super important to get this information in. Now, ideally, we'll be layering in and we'll be able to see the conversions. Now, you should have imported conversions as well, too, of quality leads that we're not optimizing for yet until we get enough volume, but we want to see that data still so we can look and manually optimize the campaigns towards those goals. The most important part about this is once we see enough data that's coming in, even though we're not optimizing for it yet, when we see enough data coming in, so we're looking at 20 to 25 conversions coming in, if they're lead forms, calls, ideally qualified leads, then we'll transition to this other structure here where we say, okay, instead of running manual CPC, we'll go to more aggressive conversion-based bidding and find the inefficiencies in keywords as well as spend. So the same thing we were doing before on inefficiencies, however, now we're looking at it from a conversion-based campaign structure. Now we're going to go super aggressive on this because we don't want to limit the learning that we can do. So in this stage, we're trying to essentially build the engine that will scale the business, right? So we know that the offer works, we know that these keywords work, and we have data to back that up in the first place. So now we'll say, okay, let's turn on maximize conversions, super aggressive bidding, and let's find out where we sit with conversion-based bidding from our previous goal, right? So we're trying to build a optimized, essentially, engine that's going to allow us to prospect and find new people while still being efficient at the same time. And so what we want to do in this situation is low volume of search terms on broad match. So we still want to keep it low. Typically, we'll do 1 to 5 ad sets. This will vary immensely. I just have that as a number, but it'll be somewhere typically in this range of 1 to 5 ad sets or ad groups. And those ad groups will be all geared towards the theme still, and they'll be more about, we can test different offers on the landing page, different setups on the landing pages, different ad copy that's pinned. The goal here is to just try to fine tune the messaging to the consumer and not focus as much on the keywords like we were previously. And then as you say, or as you see right here, in this stage, you want to ideally test under 20 keywords on broad match. I never, ever run more than 20 keywords on broad match because it overlaps so much. And the only time that I will do this is if, and this is a big if, you have multiple different services that you're offering, whether it's, let's say, acupuncture and chiropractic care, I'll have separate campaigns with separate conversion actions going towards that. So there'll be 2 separate campaigns, not just 1 campaign going towards the same goal. So I will always stay below 20 keywords in 1 campaign. I will never go above that because broad match overlaps extremely broad, hence the term or the name. And so having 100 keywords is really not going to spend. You always want to have it under 20 so you can consolidate the data and make larger moves and see more so what's going on with consistency versus the ad spend being broken out every now and then across other keywords that might not always serve. And you're going to see, like I said, a lot of overlap, so it's not really going to matter as much. Okay, so the optimization, like I was talking about, focus on trimming keywords that have high volume but are getting junk traffic. So we're looking at things like overall conversion rates, placement, seeing if, for example, you have one term that is bringing in a lot of junk search terms. So if I'm typing in something, I don't know, like doctor is like the broad match term, and I get a lot of terms that are like competitor, or we're looking at, things that are not really related to a doctor that you're trying to push, then I would look at that and say, okay, do we have enough volume, meaning that, we're looking at that term having around 100 clicks and it's still getting that bad traffic from what we see, and we're not getting conversions that are coming in that are qualified, because that does happen, right? Super important point here real quick is you might have really bad terms, but the actual user that's typing in those terms might be qualified. And so I am very, very hesitant about trimming negative keywords and adding negative keywords, because Google knows a lot about the user. And if you're pumping in quality data, it's going to be way, way more efficient on those one-off terms that might not be as accurate per se as what you think the user's typing in, but they might actually convert on it and be qualified. So you have to be very, very careful of that. Now, if you know that's not the case, you're getting a lot of competitor terms that are coming in and your sales team is not converting competitors, or it's not possible in your niche, yes, you want to trim it down. And yes, you maybe want to trim off that pool that broad term is getting that might not be as qualified if you find conversions that are working on the other keywords. And then when you hit a wall, maybe you want to open that back up and let it test that audience again. So right now we're just trying to get efficiency and having more volume. That's our goal. Over here, you'll see prioritize offer testing on pages per ad group. Look to optimize the sales funnel to improve conversion rates so you can bid more aggressively, pin ad copy, offers, etc. Right? So we're double checking the market. We're seeing if we can do even better based off of what the market is offering and what we're offering on the profitability of the business. So if you have a really, really good sales team and they're killing it, we can obviously go after competitor terms, and that's great. That's something we might want to leave in. If we're looking at a scenario where, the offer is so good that your close rate and your overall cost per acquisition is amazing, then obviously we want to scale up and pretty much meet at that goal, because we want to get as much volume as possible for your business, right? I would rather have a business that has 1,000 leads making $1 and able to scale, so we're able to scale $1 consistently, versus a campaign that's stuck at 5 leads for $20, let's just say. And the issue of that is because you can't scale that, whereas the other one you can. I'd rather scale $1 than hold efficiency at $20. That's the goal, because large businesses, that's how they grow. Their margins tend to be based off of, volume, not as much efficiency in a very closed ecosystem. And you find other ways in the business to optimize towards making sure that you can keep pushing in that direction. And a lot of that has to do with feeding the algorithm right data and having a killer sales team and a really good follow-up sequence, because ads are just the top and the beginning of the process, not the full process. Okay, so now that we've kind of figured out that, okay, we're efficient, we have the right messaging, we have the right offer, we're scaling it, the sales team is more familiar with leads coming from Google, they understand how to sell, we've prioritized optimizing that. The next goal here is to scale. Now this is what I would call a seasoned account, right? So this is an account that has a sales process, they have a follow-up sequence, their ads are built towards the offer that's working, they have enough volume, they want to scale spend, they have enough feedback window of from when you make the sale to when the sale closes. Then we move into looking for ways to push the algorithm even harder in the direction we want to go into. So what tends to happen is when you get past that previous stage, when you scale, you run into this roadblock of CPCs. And what I mean by that is that I might have been paying $5 for a click, and now I'm paying $20 for a click. And when I pay $20 for a click, that difference from going from $5 to $20 does not equate to a conversion rate that gives me the right results, right? So if I'm paying $5 from 4 clicks and I get a sale, which would equal 5 times 4 is 20, and I paid $20 for 1 click and I don't get a sale, we're at a point of inefficiency because we're pushing beyond what the algorithm wants to give us and what it knows can actually convert based on our data pool, that we have to get creative on the ad structure and understand exactly what is holding us back. And it's typically CPCs, because our sales team is figured out, our offers figured out, landing pages figured out. Now we're just trying to capture more demand inside of the search network, because at the end of the day, the search network is a demand ecosystem. We're not generating the demand, we are capturing new customers from the already generated demand from some source, whether it's problem aware, whatever it is in terms of your TAM. So in the bidding structure, what we like to do is when you have maxed out efficiency on maximized conversions, we push towards one of our strategies called the feeder strategy, so CPCs can stay low. So I'll explain that in just a moment real briefly, but we grow ad groups and keywords, try to stay under 20 keywords in the conversion-based campaign. On the feeder campaign, test winning keywords and bid manual CPC max clicks. Push for CAPI imports only for qualified leads. Okay, there's a lot here to cover real quick. So the feeder strategy, super simple concept here. You have your campaign that is on conversion-based bidding. You hit a wall on CPCs. So when you scale, your CPCs spike up and you don't get results back from that. And so we say, okay, how can we still deliver quality data to that conversion-based campaign at a lower CPC? Well, we run a separate campaign and we sort of start that process over again that you just saw us go through here, except now we have data and we'll say, okay, manual CPC is typically what I like to do, but sometimes you can use max clicks. Manual CPC on the terms that are working on exact match, and we cap that at the previous CPC that we were happy with, whether that was $5, $6, $20, whatever the amount is, and we try to scale that as much as possible without having that conversion data holding us back. And the goal here is to have a good blended result on seeing how, for example, that manual CPC campaign bleeds over into that conversion-based campaign and gets us more sales. Because what we've noticed is that when you turn that on and it's a CPC issue, the algorithm just needs more data. And when someone has been to your site, the algorithm knows, okay, this person's interested. That maximized conversion campaigns will now start to scoop up from those signals, and it'll help train the algorithm towards new audiences. The other thing as well too is that we can also push for CAPI imports. So this has to do with edge tagging. I could super nerd out about this. If you have a question about this, put it in the comments. I have a separate video I'm going to make on this. But CAPI imports, we like to use it with edge tagging. And what that means is that it allows us to tag users more efficiently without being constrained by, ad blockers, site page load speed, different devices. It allows us to capture a lot more data before the user actually lands on the website, and it's privacy safe as well too. So we're preparing ourselves for a cookieless future as well too. And so when we push for CAPI imports, what that does in essence is it gives us more conversion data to feed over to the algorithm, which will then allow it to learn faster and grow further into its ecosystem where other campaigns might not necessarily see that data in the first place. So it's a really, really big advantage. And I have a couple companies that I work with that push for CAPI imports with edge tagging. It's not as good without edge tagging, and there's not many companies that are using edge tagging that I know of. So super, super important to make sure you have that set up properly. That is, I would say, the number one option for me personally for the accounts I run, aside from, once you've done the feeder. And then from an optimization standpoint, pretty straightforward here. We're focusing on trimming keywords to hit conversion volume and track the rest of the funnel if possible for quality of leads, if lead gen, like we already said earlier. So same process on that. We're also prioritizing offer testing to see what CVR is to quality of sales. So if there's sales volume, we want to see, okay, did the sales volume come from this keyword or this keyword, and figure out what exactly got them to convert at a higher amount versus a lower amount, and then maybe add that to the messaging, right? Ads are no longer just, here's the build and run with it. We're trying to work with the company, work with the sales team, understand what their offers are, try to make better offers, make them sound better, have more tests, and then also gear towards better placement for the ad copy itself to then resonate with more people. That's the goal, right? We're not just looking at ads and scaling them with whatever traffic is possible. It's very important to understand how that's impacting the back end numbers of the business, which is our whole philosophy on why we want to focus on your P&Ls and not ROAS and what Google says. Super, super important. Most people do not do this. And so if you are someone that does, you are already ahead of the game. Okay, and then here, trim off keywords in the feeder, meaning that manual campaign once they reach around 100 clicks at a good placement. Same strategy as before, we're just doing it now in a separate campaign. So we have two campaigns running. The manual CPC campaign that's on exact match, going for super high intent keywords. And then we have the conversion-based campaign that we're using to capture all that data and scale. That's our goal, is to see how far we can push that before we have to then scale the other manual campaign. I like to do roughly about a 90-10 split. So if you have $100, or let's say $90 on your main campaign a day, then you want to have $10 on your manual campaign. Obviously that's a low spend. I hope that you can get above $100 a day if you're at this seasoned account stage. But if you're not, then either that's really good or really bad. So something to be aware of. Okay, and so we covered trim off keywords in the feeder once they reach 100 clicks at a good placement. And now once we've hit a wall on the sales team, on the placement, on the keywords, on the awareness keywords that might be more further up the funnel, now we have to figure out, okay, search is maxed out. Now we need to move to other channels to then see how those impact search. So we're talking about meta ads, YouTube ads, something else outside of the demand capture that we want to do to generate more demand to then have that drive into our bottom of funnel campaign. Super, super important. A lot of accounts that we have are at this stage where we're now testing outbound, and it works really, really well on YouTube if you have the right messaging. However, this is extremely niche. YouTube is very hard to figure out. I like to push Facebook first, but the quality of leads tends to drop when you go over to Facebook, so things to be very concerned about. Super small, quick tip: never, ever, ever run Facebook lead forms. They're awful. They're terrible. I see it time and time again. People still do it. Stay away from it. Terrible leads. And if you think it's going to work, make sure you're tracking the quality of leads, not just looking at in-platform metrics. Okay, so quick important point on the campaign settings. This is just a quick overview of it. So this is not as important. Marketing objective leads, sure, we can do that. I like to turn off both networks to make sure that the quality of data is good. When you have a seasoned account, you can turn on the search network to grow it further. And that is what I would recommend to do once you have enough data that's quality in the account, so we know that the algorithm's well optimized towards your actual goal, and it's not just going to go off the rails for someone filling out a lead form that's not qualified that might be on the search network, because the search network is not going to have as much data as Google Ads will. Or Google will. And then conversion goals, pretty straightforward, budget daily, and you can't see that. And then I never do customer acquisition bid only for new. It's terrible, tried it many times, never do it. Value rules and value rules set. And then the rest of the campaign settings, make sure you have your specific location figured out, or if it's in the entire United States, and make sure that you're on presence. 99.9% of accounts will have presence as their selected location. Sometimes if you are let's say a travel company, something that is more like hotel based or something of that nature, then you want to do presence or interest, because then obviously you want people that are not in your location but are interested in it convert. I would highly recommend excluding every other country out that you're not targeting. So for example, if you're a Hawaiian hotel and your primary, the primary target audience you're going after is Americans, then I would exclude every other country and only have people that are in America or the United States be in your presence or interest, just to make sure that you're still restricting yourself towards that specific demographic. Cool. And make sure when you do this too on the presence or interest, you're only targeting Hawaii. Sorry, so very important point. You only target Hawaii in that scenario, and you exclude everything else from the presence or interest that you want to target outside of the United States. So it looks something like Hawaii is blue, the rest of the United States has no exclusions or targeting, and then the rest of the world is red or excluded. That's how it would look. Languages, you can do all. I do English just to be safe if I have an English-based client only, but you can do all. It's still going to translate the terms, and it is going to prioritize people that are typing in the same exact thing. So if you can do something like I know in America Spanish, then that is a potential option for you. But most of the time, I keep this on English. Automatically created assets off. Start and end dates. Never have an end date. Broad match keywords off. I want to have more control. Dynamic search ads off. Ad rotation, optimize best performing ads. You can do dynamic search ads. That's a separate conversation, but that is essentially the overall structure and how we do things. So if you have questions about this, comment them below. We have a Skool community where we teach you how to do the feeder strategy, or if you want it done for you yourself or for yourself, then you can click the link below and get an audit, and I'll give you exactly what I would do in this scenario, or adding on if you have shopping or any other campaign structure, we can go through and look through that for you. Happy to give that all out for free. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.